Her body was found in a freezer. Her friends and the hotel did not take any responsibility for their actions. Was this a simple accident or was foul play involved? Today on Hauntville, the last case of the week is the case of Kenneka Jenkins. First of all, I just wanted to apologize because I have already done a podcast on this and I haven't watched any footage of anybody pronounce her name when I was researching that, so I was pronouncing it wrong the whole episode. So yes, sorry, apologies to the family. Because this case is actually belongs to Hauntville so well because it's stuck in my brain. I think about this case at least once a week. I go to change.org, the petition I'm gonna put in the description box today, again at least once a week, and I'm like, why? Why are there not enough signatures? Please, after listening to this case, if you feel inclined, sign the petition. What you need to do is then confirm the signature kind of like in the email. So check your inbox after you fill out the form. And also what would be great is like if you have work email, if you have like multiple emails, like your girl who's obsessed with newsletters, then sign the petition with all these different emails because they kind of count as like different signatures. So at least that's, for me, that was like 4 signatures. For you, I don't know how many emails you might have, it can be that amount of signatures then, just to help the family reopen this case. Because there is some injustice when it comes to this case, whether you believe this was an accident, still, somebody should have done better. It's just as simple. So, let's just, without further ado, dive straight in. So not much is actually known about Kenneka. It's not like one of those classic cases where you have, the background, everything leading up to the event, because it's not that type of case again. The only thing I know about Kenneka is that she just got a job at like a nursing home right before this party. And just from solely that, I can tell you I personally wouldn't ever apply to a nursing home. So this should actually probably tell you a lot about who Kenneka was as a person. Caring, loving, cared about other people. Because trust me, people don't just apply to work at caring homes just like on a whim. So on the night of September the 8th, 2017, Kenneka goes to this party. The party started around 11:30 p.m. and it was at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Chicago. So she obviously told her mom a completely different story. She told her she was going to go bowling with friends, and then she instead went to a hotel party. It was happening at room 926 at the Crown Plaza Hotel, and this is probably what you're imagining the hotel party to look like. So it's not like, oh, there's 2, 3 people and they're meeting up the bedroom capacity. No. At some point there was probably even over 100 people. People obviously partying within the room, then, going outside, sort of like moving on through the corridor, moving on through the hotel, and obviously during that night there was a couple of noise complaints that the hotel staff just didn't take seriously. They were profiting out of this, from the minibar to like them ordering drinks, like to the room booking. They just didn't really pay much attention to it. I'll include this footage if I can still find it. There is obviously footage from the party. There's the footage of this guy kind of like, singing, jamming to the music, and then, turning the camera, taking the scene of everything. And it's just jammed with people. However, there is a couple of them where Kenneka is just kind of there, but she doesn't look like she's having as much fun as people around her. She kind of just looks, sort of out of place, maybe even sad, you would say. Just doesn't sort of seem to be having, to be on the same buzz as the rest of the people. However, people and witnesses have said that, they would kind of like, all of them hug her when they would meet her. It's like, hey, Kenneka, and you could tell that she was intoxicated from, how she was behaving. But they said like she wasn't taking any drugs or anything. It was quite literally just alcohol. And then after 3 a.m., actually at 3:25 a.m., you can see Kenneka getting out of the elevator. So it was like a lower level. There is footage of Kenneka and her friends heading to the elevator. And then it's kind of like conversation. So her friends later have said she actually forgot her phone and the keys to her car. So her friends offered all 3 of them to leave her behind and to just like go back to the room. They were like, yeah, we'll fetch it for you. You stay next to the elevator. Now, I'm not going to go over what every single video that I have seen now when researching this again has said, because it's just the survivor's guilt on this is probably unimaginable. Like, what her friends must be feeling to this day is probably unimaginable. I'm not gonna like sell you a story of like, hey, don't leave your friends alone. We all know, and this story is unfortunately kind of a proof in itself that you should always follow through with that. So I'm not gonna go further on that. What people might think when they see this, and what I don't really see mentioned, is, well, why does she go into the elevator, proceed to lower level, proceed to like do all of this? It's like, yes, because if you have seen this footage, and if not, I'm gonna include it here. Yes, she is visibly intoxicated in all of this footage. She's kind of trampling, going from wall to wall. It seems really disoriented, doesn't really seem to understand like even where she's going. But exactly because of that, like just put yourself in that situation, you would most probably be restless. If you were drunk and your friends were like, yeah, wait here, I would have never waited here. Like even right now, I had like a couple of drinks before recording this. I'm completely restless. Like even if you're just like, no, sit next to this camera, like don't move, give me that Apple conference hands, I'll be like, no, I can't. Like my brain just doesn't work that way because I have had booze. So I feel people don't really mention that, and they don't understand, well, why did she take the elevator? Why did she go to the lower level? Because she is restless at this time. So you see the footage, she goes out to the elevator, the lower level, and this lower level at the hotel at that time was actually like under construction. So certain part kind of looks like a hotel, and then the other part is kind of closed off, but again not closed off properly, hence why she was actually able to go into this kitchen. However, as I mentioned, it's not closed off properly, and this kitchen in particular, the walk-in freezer in this kitchen is actually still operational. So sort of everything else is not functioning here, but the electricity is still working. So at 3:32 you see the footage of Kenneka walking into the kitchen. You see as much as the camera can follow her, and this is the last video footage of her. Then you see her walking into the area where the camera won't reach. And, well, people know what happened later, which is that there was a walk-in freezer in this area. And she walked in, and then hours later she was found there. So going back to the timeline, her friends now go back to the elevator and they realize that Kenneka is not there. And they go around this hotel searching for her. Like, I didn't actually see footage of this, but I have seen, like, in every single report, like, her friends were actually going around, and whoever managed to find the footage has seen them going lower level, going everywhere. They're kind of shrugging visibly on the cameras. And I find this particular part super weird because I haven't actually done this apart from right now in this video, possibly ever. Like I have never actually physically went into a full-on shrug with my arms and everything. It's more like, kind of like a quick one, not probably even noticeable if you were to video record me. So I find this particular part slightly staged when it comes to friends, and probably people who think that friends might have had something to do with it might agree with me here. Going back to the timeline, the friends now are looking for her for about 2 hours, and only after 5 a.m. they actually call her mother, and the mother is like, well, why didn't you call me 2 hours before? Like, let me come down to the hotel straight away. So the mom comes down and she's talking to people at the reception. She's like, come on, show me the footage. This will all be much quicker if you show me where she was, if you can kind of trace it down, go immediately find her. But the receptionist refuses to do so, and they're like, no, it's actually only the police that we can show this surveillance to. Which, from everything again I have heard about people discussing this case and covering this case, is kind of bullshit, because she could have, in that case of the emergency, just have gone to the manager who might have been able to actually show them the surveillance tapes. However, obviously Teresa, her mother, decides now to call 911, to call the police. So at 7:14 she makes the 911 call. I'm gonna play some of it here just because certain parts of it are just jarring.
Last night a gathering with a friend, and now her friends, they said that they left her on the front of the hotel and she's not able to be found now. She's 19 years old. Then they said that when her friends was back earlier today, like about 4 o'clock in the morning, because they run the video cameras, they said that they didn't have no cameras. But now I came and it was a lady. She said that if she heard music, and she asked me that I want to go upstairs, and we went upstairs on the 11th floor, and it was someone came to the room, and she said that she did see my daughter there with a group of girls and a couple of guys, but that's all she just saw because she was busy trying to get reception on her phone.
All right, well then, you know what? Are you sure you don't mean the Crown Plaza in Rosemont?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, the Crown Plaza in Rosemont. That's exactly where it's at.
Do you think it's possible maybe she went to one of her friends' houses, or she's probably?
No, actually, because she had my car. She was driving my car. I don't like nobody to drive my car because my insurance will not pay for nobody. No one besides her.
So as you could hear from this 911 call, her mom is calm, and I didn't read anywhere that she was criticized for this, so thank God for that. But as in, I feel like she was calm because she knew this is how I need to act, and I just need to give them information, give them straight what's happening, need them to come here, for us to be able to recover this surveillance footage, for us to find Kenneka, because she's probably still on the premises. She doesn't have keys to my car, she doesn't have the phone. Where was she gonna go? But then again, she's probably thinking like she could have walked out of the hotel, etc. And you can hear the dispatcher is like, well, maybe she was a runaway. Which again, I feel like that wouldn't be your go-to statement when you were to hear this whole story. Like, yeah, what, she just snapped at 3 in the morning when she was drunk and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna run away from home. And now I have heard two things which could have actually coincided, but basically her mom didn't give up. Like, her and the friends actually stayed and tried and searched this hotel left, right, and center. And the police actually got to the hotel because of them. Like, they didn't get because of the 911 call that she made. They got there because of the disturbance that they were causing. So they went into the hotel and were just like basically trying to get them out and be like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll look at the case. And at the same time, so that same afternoon at around 1 p.m., her sister, Kenneka's sister, filed a missing persons report at the station as well. But it won't be until September the 10th, so almost 2 days after Kenneka disappeared in this hotel, that the hotel employee would find her body within this walk-in freezer. They were just checking that separate area and they found the body. And obviously now the police was called and they brought in Teresa, her mother, and there is this footage that I don't want to put in. Basically, they just brought her into the conference room to tell her about her daughter, and there is like footage of her coming out of the conference room just screaming, completely just in panic, screaming and running and just wanting to see the body and just, yeah, find out what happened. Now, let's go back to the timeline where we left Kenneka. So she was walking into the kitchen and going into this freezer, because there's a couple of theories of what could have happened here. Obviously, there are theories where there's edited footage of somebody following Kenneka that has kind of been discarded after all of that because of the lights. So the lights were those automatic lights that would switch on when you were to walk in, and they show that they were switched on only when Kenneka walked in into the kitchen, and then afterwards when that employee walked in and actually found her body in the freezer. So that was kind of discarded. However, now thinking about this freezer itself, so as I mentioned, it's one of those walk-in freezers. Obviously, why the hell was it on? That was never answered. That's why this case is still partially a mystery. So with this freezer, as you walk in, the door would kind of shut behind you, and there are instructions within it. However, it was pitch dark from everything I read. It's one of those freezers where there is the alarm button inside of it, and there are instructions of sort of how to get out, but if there is no actual light within it, you wouldn't really know how to get out. And as it was still working, she would have just quickly frozen to death. Then obviously it was all the theories around how her body was actually found. So we know she didn't leave this freezer, we know how she died. So there's a couple of pictures. These are partially why I actually think there was something more at play. I just genuinely hate that I can't explain these pictures. And also, what I think is like there are blood spatter experts. They're like gunshot direction experts. There's so many experts in so many fields. So why has nobody actually focused on explaining this part for me? So what I mean here is how Kenneka's body was positioned within a freezer, and then her sneaker is kind of like on a completely different end. So even if she was to have fallen or had lied down and tried to fall asleep or whatever was happening. How was her sneaker completely turned the opposite way and a meter away from her? Also, why was there a cut on her ankle? Why would she not have noticed that? Maybe plastered it like earlier that day, because that kind of looked fresh, and as well, and because of the cold in the freezer, that was preserved in a way. There's other images of how Kenneka was found in this freezer that cause different kind of speculations. So she was wearing like a crop top and then a jacket. And there were theories, well, there must have been some foul play involved because, well, she kind of tried even more to like roll up her shirt up, like roll up the jacket, which can be explained because with hypothermia, the last thing, once your body can't even recognize that it's freezing, you start actually taking your clothes off because in your head you think you're hot. Diet low pass, if you like want more on that, but basically like it is kind of like a scientific explanation when it comes to hypothermia. People have also commented because there is this picture when they sort of flip her over, which made some people believe that this might not have been Kenneka in the first place, because her face is kind of bloated, her hair is all over the place, and it just kind of might look like a different person, which again, depending on what side you're on, you either contribute to hypothermia or you think there has been some foul play involved. Now, obviously, once her body was sent to autopsy, they found that she had above the legal alcohol limit in her system, but they found something interesting. People who are skeptical about this being an accident actually are like, wait, but where did this come from? And they found this drug called topimerate in her system. And this is a drug that's used for people to deal with seizures most of the time. So it's usually prescribed to people dealing with seizures or those who have migraines. Obviously, Kenneka here hasn't been prescribed it, has not been taking it to the knowledge of anybody else. So the idea here is maybe somebody actually spiked her drink. And in particular from the footage that I'm showing in this video, yes, she does look intoxicated, and yes, you probably yourself, if you have ever been this drunk, like, are imagining that this might happen to yourself at the moment and everything. But those of you thinking there might be some foul play involved, like, might actually contribute to this particular drug. Apart from these theories, the most plausible ones are, well, A, there was some foul play involved, like somebody has spiked her drink, and then what came to light was that the card to pay for the room that was used was actually fraudulent. And this is one of the main problems I have with this story, because people have just let it go. The petition that I'm directing you to is to reopen this case in the first place, because people are just like, yep, it was an accident. Even if it was an accident, there was a crime here that nobody's naming names, nobody's investigating further. And people have speculated that it is because maybe of the Chicago gang culture, maybe because there was like gang members involved, and that's why they are actually not investigating this further. So the main problems here are obviously that the hotel was let off the hook for not showing the surveillance footage earlier, which, yes, might not have saved her life, but the family might have found her a lot earlier and would maybe piece the pieces of puzzle together, because then all of the guests of this party, all the guests of the hotel would have still been there. It wouldn't have been just dispersed things like where you wouldn't maybe even be able to see who else was in this room, everybody on the footage, because obviously there is just like footage of certain cameras in the hotel and then footage of the party that people have taken for their social media. The main reason that the case bothers me so much is because apparently there is a crime, but again, we had just dropped it all because another event that has happened at night has been claimed as an accident. The other prevalent theory is that her friends had something to do with it, because of how they left her alone, because of how long they took to call her mother, because of that shrug, but also they had like text exchange. It also sounds weird and strange and staged in a way, because one of them sends like, find Kenneka, and then the other one sends, I can't believe you all lost her. And I'm just like, I know this is 5 a.m. but would you actually send exactly those type of texts? It's kind of too, I don't know, for me it's too on the nose personally, especially like knowing that there was footage of them just quite literally going around and going to lobby to search lobby twice and just having those like actual physical shrugs between them. So where does this case stand now? Police discarded it as an accident. They have said she had alcohol to permeate in her system, and then hypothermia, of course, contributed to her death. But they have said the case is incomplete, so as in kind of allowing them to say maybe they are still looking into this fraudulent car charge, or maybe they might reopen it, kind of thing, in the future. Obviously, Teresa here as the main character, her mom and like the family has done interviews, are still trying to make people aware of this case, and obviously disagree with all of this, and they have actually filed a 50 million lawsuit against the hotel and the others because the hotel just denied all responsibility, and we all know had they shown the surveillance, Kenneka would have been found much earlier. The lawyer, of course, also said that there was a lock on the outside of this freezer, so that also means that somebody might have actually locked Kenneka in. This was kind of disproven with the cameras and with the light, as I told you, the automatic light. But they have also said that the hotel had the responsibility to lock this area off, and they had the means to. You just lock it off with a plywood, lock it off with a padlock, lock it off with something, so that whoever is drunk or not drunk can't actually access it. Third of all, you have the responsibility of not keeping that freezer going on when, I mean, it's just a waste of electricity after all, if nothing else, because it's just a freezer in this random kitchen that's staying on for no apparent reason. Not to mention the fact that a fraudulent card was used, so why didn't they figure that out? Why not then pursue that as the only crime maybe that happened here, but why not pursue it? Also, why not even prevent it? So what, this hotel just allows anybody to what, book the room with fraudulent cards, no problem whatsoever. But what truly blows my mind is that they have actually allowed this capacity. So all of these people at the hotel, the receptionists didn't want to show that footage. However, they have allowed the room to be overcrowded. I guess it is because people are spending some money on the minibar, etc. But they should have been held responsible for at least one of those things. And that's exactly what the family is trying to do. So where this case stands right now is that her mom doesn't actually think this was an accident any longer. The petition was actually open for somebody to be held responsible. But also people do think that the footage was edited, that the fact that, hey, the light would automatically turn on and it only turned on twice, could have again been fabrication from the hotel, that her body has been moved, hence why you find the sneaker kind of like at that angle, even if she was to fall, the cut on her ankle, her top like all curled up, her body swollen, that something has been done to her body and there was foul play involved. Whichever one you believe, I feel there is sort of a mutual understanding, hopefully, that somebody should be held responsible. If not, honestly, if not for this, then for one of those crimes. Because just lifting your hands up in the air and being like, it's not my problem. Like, as a hotel, yeah, it's just like we allowed all of these things to happen. But it was still an accident. It's just not good enough. Somebody should be held responsible at that hotel. So if you think there is a single thing wrong with this case, if you believe that this was not an accident or that somebody should be held responsible, I encourage you to sign that petition, chip in if possible. Just try and help the family because they have just been deserted and they got no justice for the daughter's death. And as you know, I'm of hard belief that if there is a miscarriage of justice, the person will haunt you until it's resolved. In all these unsolved mysteries, etc. So I genuinely think Kenneka is gonna haunt the shit out of the Chicago Police Department until her case is actually reopened, looked into seriously, and somebody is held responsible. But that's it, the last case of Hauntsville. I might bring you some creepypasta tomorrow. You let me know what you think about this case. Do you think it was just an accident, or do you actually think something was edited, maneuvered, changed, that there was foul play involved? But until next time, I have nothing else to tell you, nothing else to say. So this is a goodbye. Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday. Goodbye.